Here are the top stories for today, March 10, 2022. The fourth round of the massive anti-COVID vaccination drive begins today as part of the government's efforts to sustain the improved COVID-19 situation in the country amid the shift to the new normal. Wage hike in the offing, the Labor Department orders a review of minimum wages across the country as workers now bear the brunt of surging oil prices to consumer spending. The Commission on Elections has a new chief. Chairperson Saidamin Pangarungan vows to preserve the poll body's independence as the country gears up for its first elections under a pandemic. And opposition candidate Yoon Suk-yeol is South Korea's next president after winning via a slim lead in Wednesday's elections held in the midst of an Omicron surge sweeping through the East Asian nation. Good day, I am William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Health authorities are now studying the possibility of de-escalating the country to alert level 0 as more areas in the country are now in the low-risk category for COVID-19. In a Laging Handa briefing, Health Secretary Francisco Duque III says the country has posted less than 1,000 COVID-19 cases in 6 days despite the easing of restrictions in Metro Manila and other provinces. Duque says he is hoping that the number will further decrease to 500. Metro Manila and 38 other areas are under Alert Level 1, which allows establishments and public transportation to operate at 100% capacity. Duque said the implementation of Alert Level 1 is so far so good.
Ano ba ang mga elements ng Alert Level 0? Kasi mga tanong, halimbawa, sa Alert Level 0, pwede naman magtanggal ng mask. Pwede na ba huwag gumamit ng huwag na sumunod sa hand hygiene? Okay? O yung mga ventilations, sufficiente ba? No? So maraming mga tanong pang kinakailangan sagutin at pinag-aaralan na ito ng ating mga expert panel, ang technical advisory group natin. Lahat pinag-aaralan ito at magbibigay ng rekomendasyon sa atin IETF sa mga darating na araw.
The fourth leg of the Bayanihan Bakunahan drive targets to administer at least 1.8 million doses of primary series and booster shots to the adult population and those in the 12 to 17 age group. Health Secretary Francisco Duque III says the ongoing nationwide vaccination drive prioritizes those who are in the A2 category. He says the department is also intensifying COVID-19 vaccination program in low turnout areas such as the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, Central Visayas, Soc-Sargen, and in Mimaropa.
Nag-umpisa ng vaccination para sa atin mga mamamayan. Ito yung atin A2, yung mga senior citizens na mabigyan ng second dose at kasama din ang 12 to 17 years pediatric age group for their second dose.
Opo.
At booster doses naman para sa atin na mga health workers and the economic frontliners. Ang inaasahan natin ay makadagdag ito at mas malapit na natin maabot yung atin 80% of the Philippine population, which is 90 million Filipinos na target natin. Well, for the National Vaccination Day, Round 4, ang atin pinupuntirya 1.8 million more Filipinos. Eh kasi ngayon, as 71% pa lang tayo, more or less, no, ang atin vaccination coverage of our target population.
Opo.
The Department of Health is studying the administration of a second booster shot to fully vaccinated senior citizens and individuals with comorbidities. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vejera said the recommendation of a second booster dose for senior citizens and the moderate to severely immunocompromised individuals stems from the decrease in antibody titers seen in studies and their increased risk towards morbidities when infected with COVID-19. The second booster is recommended to be administered 4 months after the first booster dose to further increase the protection against the disease. Meanwhile, National Task Force Against COVID-19 Chief Implementer Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. said More innovative strategies are needed to further boost the nationwide COVID-19 vaccination program. He said that with the declaration of Alert Level 1, vaccination centers have been experiencing a saturation point as the majority of those show up to get jabbed are the pediatric sector. Galvez emphasized that getting enough protection against the COVID-19 infection is crucial to the country's goal of pushing for total economic recovery. The Department of Labor and Employment has ordered all wage boards across the country to look into the need to increase the salaries of workers. Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III said the unabated fuel price hikes, which have been worsened by the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine, made a compelling ground for the wage boards to recommend adjustments in the minimum wages of workers. Bello said the boards may start doing their assessment on the matter by the last week of March.
Yung ating minimum wage of 537 pesos a day dito, may konting problema. May konting problema dahil sa dami ng pag-aakyat, yung skyrocketing of prices. That is why when you can hear yung ating mga drivers and operator ng transportation, humihingi sila ng increase ng pamasahe. So, inactivate ko agad yung ating wage board, no? Kasi sila naman ang mandated to continue monitoring our wage level. Meron tinatawag na anniversary initiative. Halimbawa, dapat every year merong review ang ating wage board, and based on the review, they can recommend wage adjustment. Pero ngayon, even before na darating yung period na yon, kailangan ma-activate na yung ating wage board dahil meron ng pending petition for wage increases. In fact nga, merong isang petition not only addressed to us but also addressed to Congress, petitioning that the minimum wage should be increased to 750 pesos per day.
Meanwhile, Petrogas is implementing price rollbacks on pump prices, which started today until Sunday, March 13. It says the slash on the price of its fuel products aims to minimize the impact of the unabated oil price increase. Petrogas is giving a rollback of 5 pesos and 85 centavos per liter for diesel and 3 pesos and 60 centavos per liter for gasoline products. These were the same amount that oil firms implemented during the fuel price hikes last Tuesday. More Filipinos in Ukraine are expected to arrive in the coming days. The Department of Foreign Affairs says most of the land-based Filipinos in Ukraine are in Lviv and Kiev, while the seafarers are in the Black Sea on board their merchant ships. In a Laging Handa briefing, Foreign Affairs Undersecretary Sara Lu Ariola said 63 Filipinos have been repatriated and at least 13 are waiting for their repatriation from different European nations after crossing Ukrainian borders. Ariola said a little over 100 land-based overseas Filipinos are still inside the war-torn country and are reluctant to go home.
Masaya tayo na 199 Filipinos are out of harm's way. 63 na po yung nakabalik sa Pilipinas and 136 are awaiting repatriation. Meron po tayong tinataya na sa land-based po, a little over 100 na ayaw pa na talagang umuwi, but we are pleading with them, we've been calling them and we're asking them na umuwi na sila, no? Pero Yusek, medyo problemado tayo dito sa sea base. POEA is closely monitoring how many Filipinos are stranded po sa kanilang mga vessels. Pero yesterday dumating po talaga yung 21 seafarers po mula sa MVS Breeze, kasama rin pa yung MV Joseph Schultz. And we're expecting more to arrive today and the following days. Doon po sa iba talaga na who refuse to come home, binigyan po natin sila ng financial assistance. Yung sa ating yung honorary consulate natin sa Kiev at yun po yung presence po ng ating embahada po sa Lviv. Pero yung mga seafarers po natin, nakikipag-ugnayan po ang DFA with BOEA and the local agencies, and we're doing everything we can para po ma-extract sila, no? Para po ma-evacuate sila.
Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana said the contract for the 17 Russian-made heavy-lift helicopters is unlikely to be scrapped for now despite the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The Mi-17 heavy-lift helicopter is a type of rotary aircraft capable of lifting large numbers of personnel or cargo. Lorenzana said the procurement project is a multi-year procurement contract and the delivery of the first batch will be in 24 months, and a down payment has already been made last January. The Philippine Air Force earlier announced that it is looking at the possibility of acquiring heavy-lift helicopters as part of efforts to beef up its helicopter fleet. The Mi-17 has a crew of 2 pilots and 1 engineer and is capable of transporting 24 soldiers or 12 stretchers internally. Still to come, the poll body heeds the Supreme Court's halt order against Oplan Baklas on private property. And the BPO industry is keen on keeping work from home in place or adopting a hybrid work environment. Details ahead, keep it here on the PNA Newsroom.
Palaban, walang kinatatakutan at may paninindigan. Ilan lamang yan sa mga ipinagmamalaki ng mga Pilipina. Ngunit hindi na bago ang katangiang yan sa ating kababaihan. Noon pa man, meron ng magigiting na babaeng handang tumindig para sa karapatan at kalayaan ng lahat.
Si Gabriela Silang na unang babaeng namuno ng revolusyon. Si Teresa Magbanua na lumaban noong panahon ng Espanyol at pinangunahan ang mga sharpshooter. At si Carmen Rosales na tinuloy ang laban ng kanyang asawa laban sa mga Hapon at sumali sa hukbalahap.
Bagamat ehemplo ang mga ito ng progresibong pag-iisip ukol sa kababaihan, lagana pa rin ang stereotypes, diskriminasyon at pang-aabuso.
Kaya naman ngayong National Women's Month, sama-sama nating ilunsad ang agenda ng kababaihan tungo sa kaunlaran. Patuloy nating isulong ang gender equality at women empowerment dahil hindi pa tapos ang tungkulin ng babae sa paggawa ng kasaysayan.
President Rodrigo Duterte has said he is not endorsing or supporting any presidential candidate, but now he says he may endorse or support a candidate whose name contains the letter O. Communications Secretary and acting presidential spokesperson Martin Andanar responded in an interview over Politico TV channel on whether Duterte would support any candidate gunning for the presidency. All presidential candidates contain the letter O in their names. When asked to give a letter of a candidate Duterte would less likely to endorse or support, Andanar answered U. Earlier, Andanar said the president has repeatedly said that he does not support any presidential candidate unless there is a compelling reason to do so. Duterte earlier backed the presidential bid of Senator Christopher Lawrence Bongo, but the senator eventually withdrew his candidacy. New Commission on Elections Chair Saidamin Pangarungan vowed to preserve the independence of the poll body as he and 2 newly appointed commissioners officially assumed office on Wednesday. Malacanang on Tuesday announced the appointment of Pangarungan as chairperson and George Erwin Garcia and Amy Neri as commissioners ahead of the May 9 national and local elections. Pangarungan thanked President Rodrigo Duterte for appointing him to replace retired Comelec Chair Sheriff Abbas. He vowed to strengthen the Comelec to be able to preserve the sanctity of the vote. Pangarungan also urged all the commissioners to join him in raising the level of integrity of the commission. Pangarungan was previously a lawyer and former governor of Lanao del Sur, while Garcia was a veteran election lawyer and Neri was a former undersecretary of the Department of Social Welfare and Development. They joined Commissioners Socorro Inting, Marlon Casquejo, Amy Ferolino, and Ray Bulay. The Commission on Elections will continue its Oplan Baklas or dismantling of illegally placed campaign materials, but only in public areas. Comelec spokesperson James Jimenez said only the dismantling of campaign materials on private properties has been suspended by the Supreme Court after issuing a temporary restraining order. He also said the poll body coordinates with the Office of the Solicitor General as to their comment on the case. For his part, Comelec Commissioner George Garcia said they will respect campaign materials in private properties covered by the TRO. On Tuesday, the High Court issued a TRO against the Comelec and its campaign to dismantle illegal election posters. The order was issued in response to the petition by supporters of presidential candidate Vice President Leni Robredo involving its operations inside private properties. The SC has given the Comelec a non-extendable period of 10 days to file their comment. Former New People's Army rebels in Cebu have joined together to address societal issues, bring public services closer to the people, and denounce the communist movement. Laid Kabagani reports.
About 200 former NPA rebels in Cebu took their oath on Tuesday as they organized sectoral groups that will comprise the local chapter of the Sentrong Alyansang Mamamayan para sa Bayan or Sambayanan. They pledged to work with the government in addressing societal concerns through the whole-of-nation approach and to denounce the lies of the Communist Party of the Philippines, New People's Army, and National Democratic Front. Sambayanan is a national organization engaged in peace and development building activities in coordination with the National Task Force to end local communist armed conflict. These organizations will also work with the regional government agencies in bringing public services right to the doorsteps of the people. The Western Visayas Regional Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict has called on the University of the Philippines, Diliman, to listen to the voice of the former students, recruits, and former comrades of slain rebel Chad Book and Kevin Castro. Assistant Provincial Prosecutor Flosimer Chris Gonzalez issued a statement resenting the accusations of the UPD office holding the armed forces of the Philippines responsible for the death of the two. He maintained that Book and Castro are only two among the long list of UP students and alumni who were recruited by the Kabataang Makabayan and who ended up as a full-time CPP, NPA, and NDF cadres. Book and Castro died in separate encounters with the government forces in Davao de Oro and Quezon provinces on February 24 and February 21, respectively. In Negros Occidental, an NPA leader and his comrade were killed in an encounter with troops of the Philippine Army's 62nd Infantry Battalion in Barangay Amin, Isabela Town early Wednesday morning. The 62 IB identified one of the fatalities as Virgilio Marco Bedam Tamban, commanding officer of the Sandatahang Unit Pampropaganda Platoon Lenovo, tagged by the military as a notorious hitman. According to them, about 10 CPP-NPA members had planned to execute a civilian they suspected to be a government informant in the area. The troops engaged these rebels in a 3-minute firefight that led to the death of Tamban and his comrade. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Laid Kabagani.
In our business news, the Information Technology and Business Process Management sector plans to embed the work-from-home arrangement into its operations in the long run. This came after the Fiscal Incentive Review Board upheld the non-extension of the work-from-home scheme for the sector in line with the government's policy to increase mobility. IT BPM enterprises are mostly located in Metro Manila and other key cities that are now under Alert Level 1. The IT and Business Process Association of the Philippines earlier said IT BPM enterprises are seeking more flexible work arrangements as the pandemic proved that the work-from-home or hybrid schemes work for the sector. This would also help in improving employees' productivity and work-life balance, reduce absenteeism and attrition rate, decongest Metro Manila, and expand talent and hiring pools. The Philippine Economic Zone Authority also recommended allowing IT BPM enterprises to operate under a work-from-home scheme until September 2022. More stories from the newsroom. Another beneficiary of the BP2 program is one step closer to reuniting with her family in Bicol. And good news for OFWs, the Department of Foreign Affairs is bringing back its courtesy lane and will allow walk-ins for renewal. Back after a quick break, stay with the PNA Newsroom.
Nais mo bang bumalik at magsimula ng panibagong buhay sa inyong probinsya? May solusyon dyan. Bisitahin ang balikprobinsya.ph upang mag-apply. Pero ano nga ba ang Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa program o mas kilala bilang BP2? Ang programang ito ay binuo ng gobyerno mula sa EO 114 na naglalayong matugunan ang lumulobong populasyon at pagsikip ng mga residential area sa NCR. Layunin rin ng BP2 na makapagbigay ng pantay na oportunidad sa mga Pilipinong magbabalik probinsya. Ligtas at libre kang makakabalik sa inyong probinsya sa tulong ng BP2. May kasama pang tulong pinansyal at oportunidad para makapagsimula ng pangkabuhayan. Bagong pag-asa ang hatid ng Balik Probinsya program. Kaya naman ano pang hinihintay mo? Mag-register na sa balikprobinsya.ph.
The last year has been the longest year for Neri Ibarrientos as she was forced by circumstances to be separated from her family because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Finally, the Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa or BP2 program will bring her closer to home. Marita Mawahe has the story.
Remembering all the hardships that she and her family went through for the last 2 years, and the thought of finally embracing again her children is more than enough to make Neri Ibarrientos, 41 years old, burst into tears. Neri, who hailed from Agusan del Sur in Mindanao, is going to the home province of her husband in Pili, Camarines Sur, all alone. Her husband can no longer bear the difficulties of staying in the city and already went home ahead of them. One of the hardest part of her is seeing her husband begging for alms.
Yung namamalimos yung asawa ko, driver po kasi siya. Naapektuhan yung pagbiyahe ng jeep. Nag-usap-usap po sila ng mga driver kasi nga po wala na siyang mapapakain sa amin. Kaya hindi na po siya nakapag-antay. Umuwi na lang po siya. Wala na pong nagbibigay.
After her husband left, one by one, her 3 young children were sent home to the province by riding for free in delivery trucks through the help of her husband's cousin. She has 5 children aged 22, 20, 12, 10, and 6 years old. The 2 older children opted to remain in the city to work so they could send money to the province and help them. Ibarrientos said it was her husband who applied for the BP2 program. His application was then transferred to her name.
Asawa ko po talaga ang nag-abil ng Balik Probinsya kasi probinsya nila yon.
Hindi ikaw taga doon?
Hindi po. Tapos, nilipat po sa pangalan ko kasi hindi na siya po nakapag-antay. Nandun na, umuwi na siya. Kasi po, pinaalis na kami ng may-ari ng bahay. Marami na kaming utang sa Kaya ayun, wala na kaming matirahan. Nauna na sila.
After they left, she tried to sell things at the Quezon City Hall and then she decided to work as a house helper so she and her older children would have a house to live in. She then sends money to her husband for their food, but it is always not enough since her husband has not found any work yet up to this day. She's looking forward to reuniting with them soon.
Para mabuo po kami. Kasi maliliit pa po sila, kailangan pa po ng gabay kasi nag-aaral sila. Hindi po naaanuan yung module nila sa susubaybayan kasi wala ang nag-aano sa kanila.
Ibarrientos is also counting on the financial assistance that will be given her as this would greatly help her and her husband start anew. She is planning to avail of the livestock livelihood program of the government and, if possible, even a small amount so she could put up a mini store. Ibarrientos misses her children so bad that she is planning to bring them around and make sure they would all have fun together as soon as she arrives home. Ibarrientos expressed gratitude to the BP2 program because if not for this, she would just remain here in the city and bear the heartache of being alone and away from her beloved children.
Salamat po sa Balik Probinsya. Salamat po sa tulong nila na tulungan po kami. Hindi ko po inaasahan na matatawagan po ako. Kaya sobrang pasasalamat ko po.
For the PNA Newsroom, I am Marita Muaje.
The Philippines joined other countries in adopting the historic resolution to end plastic pollution at the 5th United Nations Environment Assembly in Nairobi. The resolution starts the process to craft an international legally binding agreement to end plastic pollution, addressing the full life cycle of plastic products from production, design to disposal. The resolution targets 2024 as the date of completion of the new agreement. Department of Environment and Natural Resources Officer in Charge Jim Sampulna delivered the Philippine statements via pre-recorded message. The UNEA 5.2 was held from February 28 to March 2nd back-to-back with the UNEP at 50 special session marking 50 years of the work of the UN Environment Program. UNEA 5.2 adopted a total of 14 resolutions, 2 declarations, and 1 decision on a wide range of environmental issues. The next session of UNEA will be held in 2024 in Nairobi. Authorities seized some 1 million pesos worth of suspected shabu in a series of buy-busts in Bacolod and neighboring Silay City last Monday and Tuesday. On Tuesday, police arrested suspect Jojemar Lopez, who yielded 136,000 pesos worth of the substance at Buenavista Subdivision, Barangay Ginhalaran, Silay City. In Bacolod on the same day, suspect Rogelio Canoy was arrested by personnel of Police Station 3 in Purukbulak, Barangay Mandalagan. He yielded 16 plastic sachets of the substance worth almost 26,000 pesos. Meanwhile, operatives of the City Drug Enforcement Unit arrested Roberto Dingkong and Jenny Babes Montealto in Gardenville Subdivision, Barangay Tangub. They yielded shabu valued at around 768,000 pesos. Operatives of Police Station 2 arrested 3 persons, including a minor, in Purok Narabaybay, Barangay 8, for carrying 6 sachets of shabu. On Monday evening, police arrested suspect Rolly Ramos in Purok 42, Bayanihan, Barangay Villamonte, and confiscated about 10 grams of shabu valued at 68,000 pesos. Philippine Airlines has announced it will increase the frequency of its flights from 1 to 3 times a week starting March 27. Antique Governor Rodora Cadiao on Wednesday lauded the flag carrier's announcement, saying that this will spur the economy of the province with tourists and other people from Metro Manila coming in and out. Cadiao urged Antiqueños to patronize the airline when flying to their home province, even as she said that the increased flight is due to the good load PAL is getting from passengers going to the province. Philippine Airlines is the lone airline carrier flying from Ninoy Aquino International Airport to Antique Airport. PAL's turbo propeller will fly to Antique every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday morning. And in our news overseas, South Korea's main opposition candidate Yoon Suk-yeol was elected president after running neck-to-neck with the ruling party's Lee Jae-myung. Unofficial results showed that Yoon, candidate of the People's Power Party, received 48.5% of the votes in Wednesday's election, while Lee of the Liberal Democratic Party of Korea garnered 47.8%. Lee, who conceded defeat, congratulated his opponent as he asked to open the way for integration and harmony. For his part, Yoon said he vows to cooperate with the opposition and respect the Constitution and the Parliament. For our news overseas, Filipino workers who are planning to work on their passports, the Department of Foreign Affairs will allow walk-ins for OFWs, including individuals eligible for its passport courtesy lane starting March 14. The agency said OFWs availing their walk-in services must be active or those who can present a current and valid employment contract. The policy came following reports that passport appointment slots are being sold on social media. DFA Undersecretary Brigido Dulay said the agency is looking into this matter. On Tuesday, Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. gave orders to stop allocating passport appointment slots to recruiters of OFWs. Last January 2022, the DFA reserved at least 13,650 passport appointment slots for land-based and sea-based OFWs, but only 4.5% or 614 of the allotted slots were used. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. The fourth round of the massive anti-COVID vaccination drive begins today as part of the government's efforts to sustain the improved COVID-19 situation in the country amid the shift to the new normal. Wage hike in the offing, the Labor Department orders a review of minimum wages across the country as workers now bear the brunt of surging oil prices to consumer spending. The Commission on Elections has a new chief. Chairperson Saidamin Pangarungan vows to preserve the poll body's independence as the country gears up for its first elections under a pandemic. And opposition candidate Yoon Suk-yeol is South Korea's next president after winning via a slim lead in Wednesday's elections held in the midst of an Omicron surge sweeping through the East Asian nation. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear your face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day, everyone.